Hello there, I'm Dave. Welcome to my workshop. Now, in this episode, I'm going to be doing the finishing touches to the bass and then giving you a demo of that new instrument. I've got an incredible guitar story to tell you all about. And I've got to start thinking about the Great Guitar Build-Off 2022. Lot to get done. Please stay with me. Whew. Not sure how we're going to do this. Well, eventually the bass guitar is finished, and I'm sure you're going to be hearing a lot more of this bass guitar during the Great Guitar Build-Off competition because I shall be using it to record some backing tracks. I've sorted out the truss rod and let the neck settle. I've lowered the action probably about as low as I'm going to get. It's about 3.5 mil at the 12th fret there, and I don't think I'm going to get it any lower because it starts to rattle. I've raised up the pickups just a little bit, and that gives me a little bit more volume, but yeah, in general I'm pretty happy with it. The last thing was just to put that truss rod cover on. Wow, so well, if you remember how this all started with that red bass guitar, well, I've got rather a different guitar now, but yeah, absolutely delighted with it. And it just goes to show, look, if you've got an old guitar sitting around that well, you sort of like the shape of, but you're not keen on the colour and the neck's not quite right, well, just revamp it. That's the answer. Revamp it. Now then, it's going to be the Great Guitar Build-Off. I've got to find some wood for that. Okay, so you may remember the guitar that I made last year, and that is this Kingfisher guitar. Now, this was a bit of an experimental guitar in that I've got pickups hidden inside the body. I've got a piezo pickup under the bridge there, and quite a bit of electronics and stuff inside. And although, yeah, it's pretty good, I have to be honest with you, the the fact that the pickups are so far away from the strings is a problem, even though it is amplified with a preamp. I do get a bit of noise. I've recently rewired the whole thing for the second time to try and cut down the buzz. It doesn't help in that the room that I sit in is right under the mains cable that comes into the house, and I don't think that helps at all. But nevertheless, it's a lovely guitar. I love playing it, but it's not quite right. So this year I'm going to build another one of those guitars, but there's going to be no funny business, no hidden pickups. It's going to be a hollow body guitar, and it's going to have 2 humbucker pickups mounted on the top, and that's the lot. And I'm probably going to use a blend pot and a volume pot, because I really do like the blend pot that I've got on the bass guitar. Now then, let me show you the woods. Okay, I apologise if you hear some noise, we have got some builders in. Now then, I've got this lovely slab of cherry, which I've had for quite a while now. I bought it in Surrey Timbers, along with a whole stack of wood a few years ago, and I'm in the... I need to use this wood up. I haven't got anything else. So, but this wood has got a lovely grain on it, and I think I can make the top and the back and the sides from this one slab. I'm going to make a laminated neck, which is going to be cherry, probably with a strip of this of ancol wood, the dark wood, and a strip of the maple here. So I'll probably have the ancol on each side in the middle. So that's going to be that. The headstock will be the cherry as well. For the fretboard, I'm going to be using this lovely piece of Santos rosewood. This was I cut this from a big slab that I had, and I've got a few of these sort of fretboards left. I think I've got about 3 or 4, and this is a really nice looking piece, so I'm going to use that as the fretboard. What else? Let's have a look. Now, one of the reasons I want to make this guitar again is that I spent a lot of time making all the jigs and templates for this, so I've got all of those ready. I've got my curve making jig as well, and so I'm going to be making my own kerfing. I'm going to be using the headstock design that we used last year, because I really like that design. I've also got the fret slot cutting jig that I made, and I've remeasured this. I thought it was 648mm scale length. It's actually 650 scale length, which is why I always have a problem in that the bridge is in the wrong place, which isn't surprising. So it's going to be a 650 scale length on this guitar. I've got what remains of the plans from last year, so I think I've got everything I need. Oh, even got a truss rod, look at that. So that's the plan. It's going to be an exciting project. I'm really looking forward to this one. First thing I need to do is to work out how I'm going to make the front and the back and the sides and the neck from this slab. So I'm going to have to do some marking up. But I think it's now time for this week's My Guitar feature. Now, for this week's My Guitar feature, I'm grateful to Rudy from the Netherlands for sending me details and photos of his guitar, which is a Turner M1. Now, before I get into the guitar, I just want to give you a little bit of history about how Rudy got into guitar building. Now, Rudy tells me that up until 2016, he was a teacher, an economics teacher, and he taught students between the ages of 15 and 18, and he really enjoyed the work. Now, in 2003, unfortunately, Rudy was diagnosed with a disease called Kahler's disease. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. This is an aggressive type of blood cancer. Now, he went through a number of years of very difficult treatments while he was working. And unfortunately, in 2016, he was no longer able to work and he had to give up. He said, all of this was a major change in me and my family's lives. But we got very close and we are still close, he says. When he stopped working, he needed something to fill his time. And his wife suggested, why didn't he take guitar lessons? So he took the lessons, and I'm delighted to say he really enjoyed playing the guitar. And through the lessons, he got inspired to build his own guitar. Now, he actually started off with a kit guitar. I've got a photo of it. It's a Gibson 335. And he also made a homemade LP suitcase amplifier. Well, it's a beautiful looking guitar and a beautiful amplifier. So what a start, eh? His second guitar was a version of the Fender Acoustasonic. This is, I think this is one of Fender's new guitars that have come out recently, and Rudy wanted to try his own twist on that. Now, this is a really interesting guitar, and I know that it involves some really neat electronics, blending signals from various piezo transducers inside the guitar. So, back to this Turner M1. Now, I didn't know what a Turner M1 was. I don't think Rudy did originally. He was intrigued by a guitar played by Lindsey Buckingham of Fleetwood Mac. He did some digging around and he discovered it was called a Turner M1 built by Rick Turner. Now, information about the construction of the guitar was a little thin on the ground, but on the internet he tracked down a 1:1 scale drawing of the body. He also found a YouTuber who was building one of these guitars and filming the process in great detail. Okay, so before we look at these photos, let's have a look at the spec. Now, the body is made from basswood, which Rudy stained with a mahogany water-based stain and finished with a hard wax oil from Tralex. Again, I hope I pronounced that correctly. He bought the neck from Amazon. It was a 24.7 inch scale length with 24 frets. Rudy says he thinks this is a mahogany neck with palisander, with a palisander fretboard. I had to look that one up. We'll come back to the woods in a minute. He shaped the headstock to match the Turner M1 and extended the heel of the neck. The tuners were second-hand Grover locking tuners. The bridge is a Tuner-matic with a built-in piezo pickup, and he also bought a tailpiece to go with that. He picked up a humbucker, second-hand from a Dutch website, which he says is a bit like eBay. The volume and tone pots are 500k and they're wired as a Telecaster. Rudy says the piezo runs through a preamp, and there are separate jacks for the piezo and the electric pickups. I believe that Rudy wanted to route everything through the same jack, but had some difficulty with the circuit to do that. And I can fully sympathise. Trying to mix piezo and electric pickups is not an easy thing to do. Now, so let's have a look at the woods. Now, I've covered mahogany before, so I'll focus on the basswood and the palisander. Now, don't forget, you can check out any of my previous guitar features on my website, which is footstepsguitars.co.uk, and on there you'll see my guitar feature tab. If you click on that, you'll see all the previous features. It will take you straight in to the feature, and you can see what woods I discussed there. I've also got the specs of those guitars listed on that page as well. Okay, so let's have a look at the woods that he's used. Now, the first one is basswood. Now, this is sustainable, it's not threatened. Its colour is a pale white to light brown. Its workability is easy to work, it's very soft and it's very light. Now, I know all about this basswood because I made a carry tray for my dad's 90th birthday out of this wood because it's so light, and it's a joy to work with. It's got no toxicity issues, if I can say the word toxicity, other than you know, being careful with wood dust. Now, the next one is the palisander, and I believe this is the Madagascar rosewood. Sustainable. It is listed in Appendix 2 of CITES, and it's on the IUCN Red List, so it is an endangered species. I don't think it's quite as endangered as some of the rosewoods, but it is endangered. It's got it's a light yellow brown to reddish brown with darker streaks. I mean, it's one of those lovely woods. And it says it's generally easy to work with hand and machine tools, so it's probably not as dense as some of the other rosewoods, which is interesting. It's reported as a sensitizer, so if you get it on your skin, you might be itching for a while. Right, so back to the guitar. Now, Rudy says, I want to emphasise that I'm an amateur builder. Now, Rudy, I don't know about amateur. This Turner M1 is not a straightforward design, as you will see in a minute. So here's the plan that Rudy was working to. Now, Rudy says the most difficult part was the front and the back of the body. These have a radius of 60 centimetres and had to be routed on the inside. Gosh. So I can see a fairly thick block of basswood here and a rather stylish routing template. Very nice, that. Oh, and there's some very neat routing. I can see you've used a couple of wooden dowels to hold the template in place. That's a clever idea. Now this is the special routing jig to create the radius for the body. And that is an amazing looking jig. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find the YouTuber who demonstrated this, so I've not actually seen how it was used. But here's the result. Wow, that's some carve. Good gracious me. I mean, Rudy says the router jig fell apart during the router process. I mean, you're taking off such a lot of material there. Gosh, you need a really strong jig. He said if he made it one again, he would use longer wood screws, thicker wood, and glue the whole lot together. I mean, it really must have been quite a job to take that much material off. Once he'd routed and carved both halves, these were glued together. Rudy says the two halves got bent a little in between routing and gluing, but he used a high pressure and they stuck okay, and they're still stuck. That's always important. Now, here we go. Here's the finished guitar. Well, that's a fantastic replica of a Turner M1. I mean, it's such an unusual shape, and that body carve is, I don't know, so iconic, isn't it? It's amazing when you see that. The guitar has two pickups. The humbucker can be rotated to change the colour of the tone, and that's clever. That's a clever addition. The piezo is built into the two pneumatic bridge. Rudy says he had problems soldering the earth wires to the back of the pots, and he ended up doing them again and sanding the back to get a better joint. Now, it's a problem that I've had many a time, and I always do now sand a little portion of the back of the pot so I can actually join it on. And I also do now use a flux pen as well. I just rub that on the back. I think if you've got a fairly hot iron, it makes it easier. But yeah, it's very frustrating when you put a dollop of solder on and then you stick the wire on and the dollop comes off. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, and here's the preamp for the piezo pickup. Now, Rudy says he had trouble trying to wire the humbucker and the piezo so they could be used together, and in the end decided to make separate outputs. I mean, all I can suggest is you can mix the signals with an external mixer, and I'm sure, Rudy, you could probably put a mixer together very easily. Now here's the headstock, and I've left this one till last because I just love the inlay. I mean, that's very original. It's absolutely tremendous. Now then, Rudy has given some really good advice if you're thinking about building your first guitar. He says, find a plan for the guitar and get a 1:1 scale print. And this is great advice. I know that. In the past, I've used an A3 printer and stuck sheets together to get the print. But it's surprisingly inexpensive to send a PDF off to one of these online bureaus and get them to print a full-size print for you. We had to do this when we had our house extended. I needed some copies, and yeah, it was only a few pounds for each of the floor plans, and they were pretty big. So yeah, it's a good solution, that. He says, get some good tools, a router, an oscillating sanding machine, a jigsaw, and if possible, a bandsaw. And he says a great place to look is in the second-hand market, because obviously in the Netherlands, there's an abundance of these. I'll be honest, I've had a little bit of trouble in the UK on eBay trying to find these sorts of things. But yeah, it's certainly a good source. I'm absolutely sure of that. Like me, Rudy also gets tools from these middle aisles in the middle of supermarkets. You know the supermarkets I mean. And I'll tell you what, there's some amazing tools there. My scroll saw was from one of these places, and it was a lot cheaper than if I'd gone to a tool shop. And I think it's just one of the branded tools, just rebranded for the supermarket, but it's really good. So yes, always look in the middle aisle because there's some great stuff. He says start off with cheap hardware, and yes, it's something I do, I'm afraid, as well. It's more out of necessity because, to be honest with you, I can't afford £300 or £400 a guitar to put hardware on. So I do tend to go for the cheaper tuners and pickups and bridges. And to be honest with you, they do me perfectly well. And as Rudy says, what you can do, you can always upgrade them in the future if you want to. And that's really good advice. Finally, he says, be patient. Things go wrong when you start to hurry. If you watch my channel, you know that happens all the time. He says, don't struggle. If you're having a bad day, stop and come back another day. And I think that's really good advice. I don't know about you, but I found Rudy's story very moving and very inspiring. You know, unfortunately, he recently got COVID and spent 4 weeks in hospital and another 4 weeks in a revalidation centre, learning to walk again and to control his breathing. I mean, it's really so difficult. But do you know what? He's got such a lot of enthusiasm. I mean, his illness limits the amount of time he can play the guitar, but he does enjoy playing it. And he's got ambitions to build other guitars, and his ultimate dream, he says, is to build a Brian May Red Special. And he says he's not sure he's up to it yet, but I tell you what, Rudy, if you can build a Turner M1, I'm absolutely sure you can build a Brian May Red Special. And I tell you what, as soon as you do, send us the photos because we'd love to see it. Anyway, Rudy, thank you for sharing this fantastic story about this Turner M1 guitar. I think it's an absolutely beautiful guitar, and well, you should be really proud of what you've done. And thank you for sending it. It's amazing. Cheers. Okay, so I've made a start on the getting the woods ready for this great guitar build-off 2022. What I've done, I've cut the big plank of cherry up on the chop saw, and then I've taken the body top and back, and I've sliced that slab into 4 thin pieces. Each one is about 7mm thick. So I need now to run these through the thicknesser to take them down to probably about 4mm. I've also made myself a new neck template because the one I had before wasn't accurate enough. It was a bit lopsided, so I've spent the morning taking quite a bit of care to get this one right, and I've also made it the full length, the full scale length, which is 650. So I'm quite pleased with that. I've also modified this headstock. The last year's guitar, you'll notice that the top E string actually clears the headstock at one point, and although I'm not too worried about that, I didn't think it looked quite right. So what I've done, I've added a piece in just to hopefully stop that and let the string go right across the headstock. So we'll see. And finally, I've made this rather strange template because I'm going to make this guitar with a bolt-on neck like I do with all the other guitars. And to do that, I need a piece to bolt the neck onto, and that needs to be strong, basically. So what I'm going to do is then run a piece from the front right the way through to a block at the back. Now this is just a template, but the piece will be quite thick and it will follow the contour of the bottom of the guitar. I'm very keen with this guitar not to have anything on the underside of the top because I want to try and get some vibration and some acoustic sound from the guitar. That's the idea anyway. Okay, I think it's time for our 5-minute guitar workshop workout, and today I've got a really interesting scale for you to have a go at. Now then, I think what I'll do first of all is play you the scale. Now don't forget that on the website footstepsguitars.co.uk, if you go and look at the playing tab, I put the tab for this scale up on there, and also there'll be a link to this segment of the video as well. So if you lose it, don't worry about it. There'll also be a link to a backing track that you can jam along to, and with this scale that's quite important. So without further ado, here's the scale. Now this scale is a mode and it's called the Phrygian mode. Now I'm not going to go into all the theory of this because I'm not an expert in this, but there are a lot of YouTube videos out there which talk about the modes. Anyway, let me show you this scale. Now I'm going to play it in the same sort of area as I played the blues scale, and that's starting at the 5th fret on the bottom E string. So here we go. We go 5th fret, 7th fret, 8th fret. Then we move up to the A string and we go 5th fret, 7th fret, 8th fret. Then we move to the D string and we go 7th fret, 5th fret, 7th fret, and the 9th fret. It's a bit of a stretch, that one. Then we go to the G string and we do the 5th fret and the 7th fret. We go to the B string and we do the 5th fret, 6th fret and the 8th fret. And then we go to the top E and go the 5th fret, 7th and the 8th. I think I got that right. So let's play it a little bit faster. Now, the scale itself sounds a bit boring when you just play it on its own like that. But the real magic happens when you play this scale over an E minor chord. And so I'm going to do a backing track for you, and well, go and experiment and you see what I mean. And tell me what sort of feel you think you're going to get from that. I'll tell you what, I love experimenting with all these different scales, and well, as I said, the real magic happens when you play that over an E minor chord, and well, I just love the sound that you get from that. So I mean, please let me know in the comments what you think it sort of sounds like. Anyway, I think I'm going to call this video a day. I've made a start on the Great Guitar Build Off guitar. We've had that fantastic guitar story from Rudy. It's an amazing guitar that he's built there. Don't forget, we've still got the R scoring challenge going. So if you would like to compose a piece of music to the short film that I've put out there, please have a go and let me know, and we'll feature it on this channel. Wow, this is really exciting. I'm looking forward to this Great Guitar Build Off. Anyway, until next time, stay safe. See you soon.